The Ark of the Covenant, ancient power or ancient tech. Why would a golden chest, carried with strict caution across deserts and through kingdoms, inspire centuries of awe and fear? The Ark of the Covenant is remembered as a vessel of divine presence, but behind the layers of religious language are traditions that describe it with striking physical detail. Generals took it to war, enemies dreaded its approach, and priests insisted on protocols so severe that a single touch could mean immediate death. The central mystery is not only why it occupied such importance, but whether those grim warnings pointed to something tangible, something physical, that ancient people could not otherwise define. Was it purely ceremonial, or did it contain a hidden property that inspired such intense reverence and dread? Accounts tied to Ethiopia keep this puzzle alive today. The Church of St. Mary of Zion in Axum maintains that the Ark rests within its sanctuary, a claim central to local tradition. Hancock, in interviews and in his published work, reports stories from guards who describe lasting health problems after long years of watch. He recounted being told that many suffered cataracts, skin afflictions, or fatigue, symptoms that locals themselves sometimes linked to the Ark's mysterious presence. One elder described it to him as a thing of fire, full of danger. These testimonies are striking, but it is important to note that they are anecdotal, conveyed through personal accounts, not the result of peer-reviewed scientific investigation. No independent team has successfully published evidence of radiation or electromagnetic emissions from the Ark itself. Official archaeology remains cautious. Without reproducible measurements and scholarly verification, the Ethiopian claims sit in the realm of faith, memory, and story rather than established fact. Still, press reports over the past few years have brought fringe ideas closer to mainstream discussion. Some groups claim electromagnetic anomalies near sacred relics in East Africa, and portable instruments have allegedly registered unusual fluctuations, but these results remain unverified by independent institutions. Archaeologists emphasize that technical readings in such environments are prone to outside interference, from solar weather to local contamination. Until multiple peer-reviewed studies confirm consistent findings, those claims are best regarded as preliminary whispers rather than accepted results. In this haze of testimony and contested data, speculation thrives. Engineers occasionally use analogies to describe what might explain the Ark's fearsome reputation. They suggest that if an object were layered in gold and insulated around an unknown core, it might store and release electrical energy in bursts. In modern terms, that would resemble the function of a crude capacitor. But we must stress, this is an analogy, not a demonstrated fact. No archaeological evidence confirms such a device existed. At most, it is a way of framing how ancient witnesses might have experienced strange phenomena. The biblical images of lightning, fire, or roaring sounds could reflect atmospheric discharge, but could also be symbolic language. The line between literal and metaphor remains unresolved. At the same time, archaeology in other biblical settings has turned up findings that provide context, if not direct confirmation. In 2025, archaeologist Dr. Scott Stripling announced the discovery of a structure at Tel Shiloh in the West Bank, believed by his team to match descriptions of the Israelite tabernacle, the tent-like sanctuary where the Ark of the Covenant was said to be kept. The remains included aligned post holes and storage areas consistent with ritual use. This claim, reported across mainstream news outlets, represents a tangible, testable site linked with where the Ark was once described as being housed. It does not demonstrate the Ark's physical power, but it does anchor the narrative into verifiable geography. When the finds from Tel Shiloh are placed against the backdrop of Ethiopian legend, a picture emerges. Here is a convergence between durable tradition and material culture. Oral histories in Axum guard the relic as dangerous and alive, while archaeology in Israel unearths spaces that could have contained it centuries earlier. Yet the gap between faith and evidence remains. The Ark itself has not been publicly examined, and without scholarly access, its properties will stay in the realm of speculation. Even so, one cannot ignore the consistency across time. Communities treated the Ark as a source of almost unbearable power. Strict rituals governed every stage of its handling. Narratives of fire, death, and holiness carried through centuries, outlasting empires. If we reinterpret those accounts as cultural memories of a hazardous object, whether technological or simply symbolic, it reframes the role of myth. It suggests myth may function as a vessel for information, encoding warnings about real dangers long after the technical details were lost. This is why Hancock emphasizes the Ark as more than just a sacred chest. In his reading, it symbolizes the blurred line where spirituality and technology intermingle. He invites us to consider the possibility that rituals interpreted as worship might actually have been practical measures to contain or control a volatile force, although this remains theoretical. What matters most is that the Ark sets a precedent. Here is an object that some regard as divine while others imagine as a device. Looking forward, this precedent has implications. If even one relic carries descriptions that sound uncannily like physical energy, should we then review other traditions with fresh eyes? Stories of scorching stones, forbidden containers, or sky flashes may no longer fit neatly into myth alone. They could represent distorted memories of interactions with technology beyond what mainstream history allows for. And if so, the Ark's enduring legend is more than folklore. It is a lens for rethinking the entire ancient record. Whether it was an advanced device, a myth turned tangible, or purely symbolic, the Ark of the Covenant becomes a case study in how fragile the line between history and memory can be. It is not just an artifact of theology, but a reminder of gaps in our own understanding of the past. And with each new report, each contested claim, we are left asking whether other structures hiding beneath the earth might tell similar stories, waiting to be revealed with the tools of our own generation. Hidden pyramids revealed by 2025 satellite imaging. Walking the deserts of Egypt, one might think the land has already surrendered all its secrets. Archaeologists mapped the pyramids along the Nile, explorers sketched every mound, and textbooks assured us that the great monuments had been catalogued. Yet in 2025, that assumption was challenged. A team led by Alessandro Malanga and Riccardo Biondi, using satellite-based synthetic aperture radar (SAR), announced discoveries of buried geometric forms beneath the sands. Their data suggested foundations and platforms shaped with precision, hidden just beyond reach of older instruments. These claims were reported in outlets including the Jerusalem Post and Reed Multiplex, sparking headlines that Egypt still holds dozens of uncounted pyramidal structures. What made these SAR maps striking was their clarity compared to traditional tools. Ground-penetrating radar struggles under dunes, grains scatter signals, blurring any picture. But the new spaceborne sensors, adapted from planetary survey missions, penetrated stratified sand layers with higher resolution. In some images, the geometry looked impossible to dismiss. Symmetrical bases, right-angled corners, stepped terraces. At first, researchers hesitated, labeling them anomalies, perhaps quirks of geology. Yet repeated passes with varying wavelengths reinforced the same angles. The suggestion was unmistakable: large man-made foundations buried out of sight for centuries. Numbers quickly circulated. Early counts proposed as many as 50 hidden bases east of the Nile. More intriguing was their organization. They did not scatter randomly. They stood in clusters, oriented with deliberate precision. Malanga's team emphasized potential correlations between their orientations and constellations such as Orion, consistent with theories that the Giza pyramids mirrored the belt stars. Some sites, they argued, seemed to align with other star groups as well, reaching into regions of the sky outside traditional Egyptian focus. Here controversy deepened. When software simulated the night sky over thousands of years, some alignments appeared far more exact in epochs earlier than dynastic Egypt. Specifically, patterns seemed to point toward skies from 12 to 15,000 years ago, a period preceding the rise of any accepted Egyptian state. To Hancock and others who argue for deep antiquity, this became evidence of a forgotten knowledge system. Critics, however, urged caution, warning that projecting constellations backwards invites confirmation bias. Multiple random points can always be matched selectively with stars. Only excavation, they insisted, could reveal whether these are truly structures or illusions in the sand. The matter is complicated by precedent. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project, using Muon tomography, detected an internal chamber above the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid, a void about 30 meters long. These findings were published in Nature and widely vetted. Yet despite deeper scans, no independent confirmation has ever suggested a sprawling 2-kilometer network beneath Giza, as sometimes claimed in fringe accounts. That contrast matters. Muon imaging sets a baseline for confirmed but limited anomalies. The 2025 SAR maps, by contrast, remain announcements awaiting peer review and excavation. Even so, the adjacent evidence built tension. Malanga's group supplemented their radar imaging with thermal differentials, tracking how night-cooled sands release heat unevenly over solid versus hollow spaces. The hot-cold patterns seemed consistent with chambers or voids, reinforcing the impression of built stone bases rather than compacted rock. Supporters pointed to these overlays as confirmation. Skeptics countered that dunes conceal fractured bedrock too, and temperature profiles can mislead. The only decisive step would be to cut trenches or deploy multiple independent geophysical methods such as gravimetry, resistivity, or additional muon scans. Why were such forms missed until now? Partly because scholarship concentrated on the fertile zones near the Nile, where agriculture allowed ancient communities to thrive. Marginal lands along the desert edge seemed unpromising. Moreover, older radar could rarely penetrate more than a few meters. What 2025's instruments accomplished was depth, mapping tens of meters below surface, peeling back lamp-black layers of drifted sand. What had long been invisible to excavation is now revealed electronically, tracing lines invisible even from ground level. As for interpretation, opinions diverge sharply. One reading frames the constructions as extensions of the pyramid temple complex, additional funerary monuments buried by shifting dunes. Another insists dynastic Egyptians never produced anything on this scale at these locations, suggesting instead an older origin. These differences map directly onto the larger debate over lost civilizations. To Hancock, deliberate alignments to sky patterns that better fit 12,000-year-old skies are signatures of inherited memory, fragments of a culture erased from mainstream timelines. To orthodox Egyptologists, these assertions misrepresent coincidental geometry and exaggerate unconfirmed datasets. A further layer involves how the anomalies appear grouped in arcs that echo cycles of precession. The Earth slowly wobbles on its axis, shifting the apparent position of stars over a 26,000-year cycle. Some researchers outside academia argue the buried foundations may chart not one constellation, but the motion of several over vast epochs. Were that true, it would require careful observation across unimaginable spans or inheritance of records from predecessors. Yet this remains highly speculative, a hypothesis unsupported by excavation and strongly disputed by the Supreme Council of Antiquities. Prominent voices, including Zahi Hawass, have dismissed such claims as unfounded until artifacts or inscriptions are actually recovered. The debate highlights a core reality: images alone do not rewrite history. Technology provides leads, but archaeology demands soil under fingernails, stones in hand, and data cross-checked under peer review. For now, the hidden pyramids of 2025 remain in limbo, presented publicly, debated fiercely, but not yet confirmed by the patient process of digging. One validation, however, has occurred when small trenches cut at a site predicted by the radar revealed dressed stone blocks. This gave some early confirmation that the method can pick out real structures. Whether the majority of anomalies will stand the same scrutiny is still unknown. This uncertainty keeps the subject alive. For viewers and readers, the what to watch for is not new radar images, but rather ground-based verdicts. Excavation or confirmation by independent methods, muon scans, gravimetry, electrical resistivity will be the turning points. The most dramatic moment will not come from another satellite chart, but from seeing whether a trench uncovers foundations or whether a fresh scan corroborates voids. Until then, the claims remain announcements, waiting either to be validated or set aside. Around the edges of the debate hover fringe speculations that these hidden foundations might represent vast energy devices or underground machines. Such theories attract attention, but it is important to mark them clearly as fringe. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities has been unequivocal in rejecting such interpretations, reminding the public that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. No verified excavation has produced mechanical artifacts of this kind in Egypt. The line between intriguing hypothesis and overreach must remain sharp lest genuine anomalies drown in exaggeration. Yet whatever emerges, the implications could ripple well beyond the Nile Valley. If even a fraction of these buried sites prove authentic, it would mean our catalog of Egypt's monumental heritage remains incomplete. It would raise questions about the full extent of ancient architectural programs, about the motivations for their alignments, and about what knowledge systems were guiding the builders. Each confirmed site adds weight to the perception that monuments encode sky-based messages, messages that may stretch across epochs. As the sands of Egypt yield new puzzles, attention naturally shifts to other landscapes where stone hides still deeper mysteries. Just as 2025's imaging has revealed outlines beneath dunes, another site, far older than Egypt, has recently forced historians to adjust their timelines yet again. Göbekli Tepe, new structures found in 2025. At Göbekli Tepe, research in 2025 added another layer to one of archaeology's most challenging sites. Already older than Stonehenge and far earlier than the first known cities, the site has always unsettled conventional timelines. But new surveys and excavations are showing that what lies beneath the surface might be more extensive than we once believed. Rather than rewriting the story outright, these findings refine the dating, the scale, and the context of the site itself. What has been uncovered so far, the monumental T-shaped pillars arranged in vast circular enclosures, may represent only a portion of a regional tradition, with more structures emerging across nearby plains. Much of this new picture comes from LiDAR and geophysical surveys funded in 2025 as part of Turkey's Taş Tepeler project. At Göbekli Tepe itself, high-resolution scans revealed hints of additional circular formations buried under the mound's sediment. Excavation has only begun in targeted trenches, but researchers have already confirmed at least one previously unrecognized ring of megaliths below the upper layers. While not yet fully exposed, these features suggest the site was not a small set of ritual courts, but part of a larger, multi-layered complex designed over generations. Archaeologists emphasize the word suggest, as excavation remains incomplete, but the results open the door to a broader view of prehistoric architecture in the region. The significance is not limited to Göbekli Tepe alone. In 2024, surveys at Mendik Tepe, another site within the Taş Tepeler cluster, revealed yet more monumental stone buildings hidden under shallow layers of soil. Excavations led by Turkish archaeologists with input from international teams such as Douglas Baird of Liverpool documented large rectangular and circular structures, some larger than what is currently visible at Göbekli Tepe. These discoveries imply the region hosted a network of monumental centers rather than a single isolated ceremonial hub. Fatma Shahin, governor of the area, highlighted how emerging finds are forcing researchers to reconsider the cultural landscape as a broad experiment in organized architecture, not an anomaly confined to one hill. The LiDAR imagery from Göbekli Tepe backs this view. Some of the buried rings appear to connect through subterranean passages or closely aligned courtyards, implying planning across a wider footprint. None of this is yet fully excavated, but researchers stress the magnitude of what the geophysics indicates. The famous megaliths visible to tourists may, in fact, be modest examples compared to foundations still covered. What once looked like a singular monument is beginning to resemble a layered archive of stone construction, deliberately buried under accumulated earthworks. Alongside the structures themselves, researchers in 2025 revisited the carved imagery with fresh tools. Many of the standing stones bear animals and abstract symbols that early excavators described as totems or shamanic figures. With digital analysis, the arrangement of clustered carvings was compared against modern star mapping software. Multiple groupings appear to correspond with recognizable clusters, the Pleiades, Cygnus, and other stellar groups. These parallels are not asserted as proof of prehistoric astronomy, but statistical comparisons strengthen the suggestion that some carvings replicate sky patterns more precisely than coincidence would allow. Archaeologists now debate whether the animal imagery doubled as star markers, encoding celestial reference points within symbolic art. In parallel, linguists have been applying machine learning techniques to Anatolian myth fragments and later oral traditions. By analyzing recurring metaphorical patterns, these models suggest encoded references to celestial cycles in myths once thought to describe fertility or hunting spirits. In some cases, repeated motifs correspond with periodic constellational events across millennia, such as rare star alignments. While speculative, these findings invite consideration that storytelling, ritual, and observation of the sky were interwoven at sites like Göbekli Tepe. The implications are far-reaching. Why would a community assumed to be pre-agricultural and semi-nomadic invest in such monumental projects aligned not only to seasonal markers, but possibly to rare astronomical cycles? Coordinating stone circles of such scale required sustained cooperation, advanced measuring methods, and cultural persistence across generations. If these early Neolithic groups encoded sky cycles in stone and ritual, then their society cannot be characterized as loosely organized bands. Rather, they seem to have possessed structures of belief and knowledge transmission far earlier than previously recognized. Some scholars urge caution, pointing out that star alignments can be overinterpreted. Yet the repetition across multiple enclosures at both Göbekli Tepe and Mendik Tepe challenges the argument of coincidence. Consistent relative spacing, measured in carvings with separations accurate to fractions of degrees, hint at systematic observation. To achieve such accuracy, prolonged sky watching or established counting methods seem necessary. Even if every star identification is debated, the evidence still suggests highly refined awareness of celestial motion. Dating remains a live question. Previously, excavators suggested usage between 9600 and 8200 BCE. With newer sediment tests in 2025, researchers confirm layers extending earlier than once assumed, though consensus has not yet shifted dramatically. It is more accurate to say new work continues to refine the chronology and context. Some findings push questions of complex symbolic building and ritual deeper into prehistory, but researchers are careful not to declare finished revisions. Instead, we see an unfolding process, each trench, each scan, narrowing what Göbekli Tepe means in the wider story of early human complexity. For Hancock and others, Göbekli Tepe represents a fragment of something larger, an inheritance from a deeper human past now only partly visible. Whether one accepts that or not, the evidence makes clear the site defies simple classification. It is neither only temple, nor only seasonal gathering site, but a convergence of architecture, astronomy, and storytelling. Even the act of deliberate burial, confirmed by sediment studies, may signal intentional preservation, a way to seal meaning for future generations rather than leave monuments exposed to decay. As new sites under the Tash Tepeler project are excavated, the questions only multiply. Dozens of hills across southeastern Turkey may still conceal additional structures. If Göbekli Tepe and its neighbors formed a network rather than isolated projects, the southeast Anatolian plains could represent the earliest sustained experiment in monumental architecture. If so, it challenges our assumptions about the order of human progress. Religion and astronomy may have preceded farming, not followed it. For now, excavation is still ongoing. Researchers emphasize patience. More structures may yet emerge, but whether they confirm large interconnected complexes or reveal smaller, diverse sites remains to be seen. What is certain is that the early Neolithic story of Anatolia is being widened with every new trench and scan. And that leaves us with a question worth lingering on. If Göbekli Tepe and nearby sites were part of a wider, older network, what would that mean for how we separate ritual from settlement in prehistory? As scholars continue digging into these mysteries, another line of inquiry is opening around the monuments themselves, not about their carvings, but about natural forces present where they were built. Electromagnetic secrets of megaliths.